Dad, perfect events. My daughter-in-law was stealing my $4,800 pension until my son arrived and did something that made her shut up. Part 1. I was lying on that thin mattress in my own garage, staring at the ceiling, when I heard my son Nathan's car pull into the driveway. My name's Albert Coleman. I'm 65 years old, and until 4 months ago, I never thought I'd be sleeping like a dog in my own home. The cold concrete pressed against my back through that pathetic excuse for a mattress. 35 years as a fire captain in Philadelphia, and here I was, waking up in my garage like some homeless guy. My shoulder still ached where my son Gerald had accidentally bumped into me yesterday when I asked about my pension money. Not hard enough to leave obvious marks. My daughter-in-law Brenda was too smart for that, but enough to remind me who was running things now. Let me back up and tell you how I got here. 6 months ago, everything was normal. I'd been living alone since my wife Martha died 4 years back. Managing, just fine. The pension covered everything. Mortgage paid off, bills manageable, even some left over for the grandkids' birthday gifts. Then Gerald called. He and Brenda had lost their apartment. Something about unpaid rent, a dispute with the landlord. Could they stay with me? Just temporarily, just until they got back on their feet. I said yes immediately. Gerald was my son. What else would I do? They moved in with 2 suitcases and a lot of promises. Gerald would find work soon. He was a good HVAC technician when he applied himself. Brenda was looking for office jobs. They'd be out in 2 months, 3 at most. I set them up in the guest room and spare bedroom, told them to make themselves comfortable. That was my first mistake. Brenda started talking about finances within a week. We were sitting at the kitchen table after dinner. I'd cooked, like I'd been doing for myself for 4 years. Brenda had a folder of papers she'd printed from my computer. "Albert," she said, all friendly and helpful, I've been thinking. "You're managing a lot here. Bills, insurance, the pension payments. What if I helped? Took some of that burden off your shoulders." I was tired. I'd spent the afternoon working in the yard, cleaning gutters. "I appreciate it, Brenda, but I've got it under control." "I know you do." She opened the folder. "But what if something happens? What if you get sick or forget a payment? With power of attorney, I can handle everything. You just relax, enjoy retirement." I frowned at the papers. Legal language, dense paragraphs. Power of attorney, that sounds serious. It's standard. Limited power of attorney, just for banking convenience. She clicked a pen, positioned it on the first signature line. "You keep control of everything important." Gerald came over then, set a cup of coffee beside me, patted my shoulder. "Dad, Brenda's good with finances. It'll make things easier for everyone. You sure this is standard for family helping family?" "Absolutely," Brenda smiled. "My uncle did the same thing with my grandfather, made everything smoother. I signed 3 pages, 6 signature lines, initials in 4 places. Brenda pointed to each spot, and I signed without reading the fine print. Why would I need to? She was family now. The trap was set. For a while, nothing changed. Bills got paid. My pension arrived like always. Brenda said she'd moved everything to a joint account for easier management, but I had access. If I needed cash, I could ask. No problem. 6 weeks passed before I noticed. I was opening mail at the kitchen table, mostly junk, some catalogs, then the bank statement. I opened it out of habit and stared at the balance. $347. That couldn't be right. My pension was $4,800 a month. Even with bills, there should have been thousands left. I called the bank. The woman on the phone was polite, patient. "Yes, Mr. Coleman. Your pension is being directly deposited. No, not to this account anymore. It's auto-transferring to a different account. The joint account ending in 4792. Set up 2 months ago." I found Brenda in the living room watching my TV. She'd rearranged the furniture, moved my recliner to a corner. "Brenda, I need to talk to you about the bank accounts." She barely looked up. "What about them? My pension? It's going to some other account." The woman at the bank said, "Joint account." "Oh, that's the one I set up. More efficient." She reached for the remote, changed the channel. "Don't worry about it, but I need access to—" "You have access. I'll give you cash as needed." She glanced at me then, and something in her eyes was different, harder. "It's better this way, Albert. Trust me." The alarm bells started then. Quiet at first, but there. I started watching more carefully after that. Noticed the new laptop that appeared in the spare bedroom, the expensive dinners Brenda brought home, steaks, wine, food I'd never been able to afford on a fire captain's salary, the leather jacket Gerald wore, tag still attached, $300 visible on, the sleeve. When the credit card statement arrived, forwarded from the joint account, I saw it all. Electronics, restaurants, clothing, furniture, thousands of dollars, my thousands. That's when I confronted her. My daughter-in-law was stealing my $4,800 pension until my son arrived and did something that made her shut up. Part 2. 1 month ago, I'd confronted Brenda. The memory burned now, made my hands shake even sitting in this garage. I'd waited until Gerald was at work, fixing someone's air conditioning system downtown. Brenda had been in my recliner. Well, her recliner now, feet up, drinking my beer. "Brenda, where's my pension?" I'd been holding the bank statements, 6 of them highlighted in yellow. The account is empty. "Where's my money?" She set down the beer slowly, like she was buying time to think. "Our money, Albert. You signed it over. I'm managing it properly." "Managing it?" My voice had risen. "You're stealing it. I never agreed to this. I signed papers for convenience, not for you to—" She stood up fast. Suddenly she was close, using her height, her presence. I'd stepped back instinctively, bumping into the wall. "You signed the papers," she'd said, voice cold as winter. "It's legal. Power of attorney means I control the accounts. And if you make trouble, Albert, I'll have you declared incompetent. You're old. You're forgetful. You're clearly not capable of managing your own affairs." She'd paused, letting that sink in. "Nursing home, Albert. State-run facility for seniors who can't take care of themselves. Think about it. The shove came then. Not a punch. That would leave marks people would ask about. Just her palm against my chest, hard enough to send me stumbling backward. My shoulder hit the wall first, the same shoulder that throbbed now, 4 months later. Gerald came home 10 minutes later. He saw me holding my shoulder, saw Brenda sitting calmly with her beer. He looked at me, looked at Brenda, and said nothing. That's when I knew. He was complicit. Not forced, not deceived, complicit. 2 weeks later, they'd stopped pretending. Brenda called me into the dining room like I was an employee being called to the boss's office. Gerald was there, silent, hands folded. "New arrangement," Brenda had said. "You're using too much space in the house. The garage has everything you need, mattress, sink, toilet. You stay out there unless you have permission to enter." I'd started to protest. She cut me off. "Your choice, Albert. Garage or I call social services and have you evaluated for senile dementia. Your call." I'd moved my mattress that night, carried it through the kitchen while they watched television. Neither of them offered to help. Now, lying here 4 months later, the full picture was crystal clear. Every piece, every step of the trap. For weeks I'd been thinking like a victim, trapped, helpless, afraid. But victims don't survive 35 years fighting fires. Fire captains do, and fire captains don't panic. They assess the situation. They find the exits. They know the structure's weaknesses. They wait for the right moment. Through the garage window facing the kitchen, I could see them now. Brenda with her perfectly styled blonde hair, sipping coffee from my wife's good china. Gerald beside her, not meeting my eyes like he'd been doing for weeks. My son, my firstborn, who used to help me fix engines in this very garage when he was a kid. My stomach growled. I'd had half a sandwich yesterday. That's all Brenda allowed. Portion control for seniors, she called it. The water from the garage utility sink tasted like rust, but it filled the emptiness somewhat. I stood up slowly, my 65-year-old joints protesting, and walked to the kitchen door. My hand was reaching for the handle when the door swung open. Brenda filled the doorway, all 5 feet 8 of her, arms crossed like a prison guard. "Garage residents don't get kitchen privileges during breakfast," she said, voice sweet as poison. "You know the rules." "Albert." I looked past her to Gerald. "Son, I just need some coffee. Just coffee." Gerald wouldn't look up from his plate. "Dad, maybe you should go back outside. Brenda's right. We talked about this." Brenda's smile was pure ice. "Besides, your pension came through yesterday. I'm handling everything just fine. Don't you worry." She closed the door in my face. The lock clicked. I stood there for a moment, hands shaking with something that wasn't just the morning chill. But I wasn't the same broken man I'd been a month ago. Something had changed. I'd been using my fire captain training, the the skills that had kept me alive in burning buildings for 35 years. I'd been gathering evidence. Hidden in the garage's dusty corners, I'd found an old smartphone, one of those basic models from years back that still had some battery life. I'd been using it to photograph everything, the living conditions, the empty food containers they threw in the garage trash can, the bruises on my arms and shoulder. I'd also been listening. The garage shared a wall with the kitchen, and voices carried. I'd heard Brenda on the phone with her sister, bragging about the stupid old man she'd fooled. I'd heard Gerald crying one night, telling her he felt guilty. I'd heard her response. "He's old, Gerald. This is his money working for his family. That's what family does." The flip phone hidden in my jacket pocket had been recording conversations for weeks now. Pennsylvania is a one-party consent state, something I'd learned during fire investigations. You document everything. Most importantly, I'd been cultivating my neighbors. Carl and Helen Phillips had lived next door for 15 years. They'd noticed things. Helen had seen me moving the mattress to the garage. Carl had watched Gerald and Brenda loading expensive furniture from delivery trucks. When I'd knocked on their door last week, pretending to ask about borrowing a tool, Helen had invited me in for coffee. The concern in her eyes was genuine. "Albert, are you all right? We've been worried. You look thin." I'd been careful, hadn't said too much, but I'd planted seeds. Let them see the situation for themselves. Smart neighbors who respected a retired fire captain. Potential witnesses. Then I heard it. The specific rumble of Nathan's Honda Accord, the one with the slightly loose exhaust he kept meaning to fix. My heart seized. Hope and dread collided. Not now. Not like this. He couldn't see me like this. But the engine cut off. Car door slammed. Footsteps on the driveway. My daughter-in-law was stealing my $4,800 pension until my son arrived and did something that made her shut up. Part 3. Through the window, I watched the house. Couldn't see the front entrance from here, but I heard the door open. Heard Nathan's voice, warm and unsuspecting. "Hey, anyone home? Where's Dad?" A pause. Then Brenda's voice, too quickly, pitched wrong. "Nathan, we didn't know you were coming. He's in the garage working on something." Working on what? It's 8 in the morning. I knew that tone. Nathan had gotten his investigative instincts from me. 15 years as an HVAC supervisor had taught him to diagnose problems fast. When something didn't sound right, he dug deeper. "Where's the garage?" "Nathan, maybe we should talk first." "Where's the garage, Gerald?" I heard footsteps approaching. Part of me wanted to call out, warn him somehow. Another part wanted to hide, preserve the illusion that everything was fine, protect my son from the truth of what his father had become. But my legs wouldn't move either direction. The garage door swung open, light from the house flooded in, and Nathan's silhouette filled the doorway. Taller than I remembered, broader. His face emerged from the backlight, and I watched the emotions cycle across his features. Confusion, shock, horror. His eyes found mine, then tracked down to the bruise under my eye, still yellowing from last week when I'd asked about grocery money. They took in the mattress on the concrete, the single thin blanket, the space heater that barely worked. "Dad," his voice cracked. "Dad, what? Why are you sleeping out here?" I couldn't speak, just stood there in my pajamas and worn robe, holding a plastic cup of rust-flavored water like some kind of broken-down vagrant. Nathan stepped into the garage, his eyes taking inventory. The uniform hanging on the wall, my fire captain uniform from 35 years of service, watching over me like a ghost of better times. The makeshift bathroom set up in the corner, the plastic bags that held my few remaining possessions. "Dad, you get $4,800 a month from your pension. Why are you living in the garage?" Before I could answer, Brenda appeared in the doorway. Gerald shuffled up behind her, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "It's complicated," Brenda said, but her confident mask was slipping. I could see the calculation in her eyes. Space issues, and Albert prefers. Nobody prefers to sleep. On concrete, Nathan cut her off. His voice had gone cold, dangerous. The same tone I'd used when interrogating suspects during arson investigations. "Dad, how long has this been going on?" 4 months, I whispered. Nathan turned to Gerald, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. The younger brother protecting the family? 4 months? And you let this happen? Gerald's face went red. "It's not that simple, Nathan," Brenda says. "I don't care what Brenda says." Nathan pulled out his phone. "Dad, where's your pension money going?" Brenda stepped forward, and I saw that calculated look return to her eyes. The same look she'd had when she convinced Gerald to let her help manage my finances. "That money is being properly managed," she said, voice taking on that professional tone she used when she thought she was winning. "Albert signed power of attorney. It's all legal. I have the documents." "All legal?" Nathan's voice rose. "Making a 65-year-old man sleep in his own garage is legal? He's free to leave any time," Brenda shot back, crossing her arms. "Find himself a nice nursing home if he doesn't like the arrangements here." That's when Nathan did something I'll never forget. He reached for his wrist, unclasped his watch, a nice Omega his company gave him for 10 years of service, and set it down on my dusty workbench. The watch caught the morning light streaming through the garage window, stainless steel and craftsmanship sitting on sawdust and oil stains. "This watch is worth about $3,000, he said, each word precise and cold. "Take it and get out of this house, right now, before I make some phone calls you won't like." Brenda stared at the watch, and I could see the wheels turning in her head, greed warring with caution. She picked it up, turned it over in her hands, examining it like she was appraising jewelry. "Nice watch," she said, setting it back down with deliberate slowness. "But why would I take $3,000 when I've got $4,800 coming in every month?" Her smile was pure predator. "Power of attorney, Nathan. All legal. Your father signed it over. This house will be mine too, once I get him declared incompetent." Nathan's hand slid into his pocket, pulled out his smartphone. I noticed his thumb moving across the screen, but he kept it angled away from Brenda. "So you're stealing his pension," he said quietly. Not a question, a prompt. Not stealing, managing. He's old, he's forgetful. He can't handle money anymore. Brenda was getting confident now, thinking she was educating this naive young man about reality. "That pension is my responsibility now. Legal responsibility. And forcing him to live out here? Forcing?" Brenda laughed, and it was an ugly sound. "He's free to leave any time. Find himself a nice state-run facility for incompetent seniors. That's his other option." Gerald made a sound from the doorway, almost a whimper. "Brenda, maybe we should..." "Don't." Nathan didn't look at Gerald. His eyes never left Brenda. "Not one word, Gerald. Nathan, you don't." "Nathan? Understand? We needed... I'll talk to you later." Nathan's voice carried something I'd never heard before. Not anger, something colder than that. Authority. Right now, I'm getting Dad out of here. What Brenda didn't know was that Nathan had been recording every word. I could see it in his stance, the way he held the phone. Pennsylvania is a one-party consent state, something I'd taught him years ago during my fire investigation days. Always document everything. And Brenda had just confessed to everything. Financial exploitation, unlawful eviction, threats of false commitment, all on recording, with Gerald as a witness. Nathan moved to my side, put a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Dad, get your things. We're leaving." I looked at my uniform hanging on the wall. 35 years of service, 200 lives saved, 12 commendations from the mayor. I'd run into burning buildings when everyone else ran out. Now I was being rescued by my own son from my own home. I took the uniform down, folded it, carefully. It was the only thing in that garage that still had dignity. My daughter-in-law was stealing. My $4,800 pension until my son arrived and did something that made her shut up. Part 4. Brenda blocked the door as Nathan guided me toward it. He's not going anywhere. This is his home. Nathan stepped forward, and even though he was shorter than Brenda, something in his stance made her move aside. Years of supervising construction crews had taught him how to project authority when it mattered. Get out of the way. We walked through my house, past the new leather furniture Brenda had bought with my pension money, past the 70-inch TV she'd charged to my credit card, past the kitchen where my wife's good china sat like trophies of conquest. In Nathan's car, driving away from the house I'd lived in for 20 years, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. "Hotel first," Nathan said, checking his rearview mirror. "Then we're calling a lawyer." The Holiday Inn room felt like paradise after 4 months in that garage. Hot water that didn't taste like rust. a bed with actual sheets. Nathan ordered room service, enough food for 3 people, and watched me eat like he was afraid I might disappear. Tell me everything, Dad, from the beginning. So I did. How Brenda and Gerald had moved in after their business failed. How she'd convinced me to sign power of attorney papers to help Gerald get back on his feet. How the money started disappearing into a joint account I couldn't access. How she'd gradually moved me from the guest room to the basement to finally the garage. The power of attorney, Nathan said, taking notes like he was planning a major HVAC installation. Did you read it before signing? She said it was limited just for banking convenience. Gerald was there, he seemed to think it was fine. I pushed food around my plate, still getting used to having enough. I trusted them. And the threats? I told him about Brenda's promises to have me declared incompetent, about the nursing home threats, about how she'd turn Gerald against me bit by bit, about the physical intimidation, the isolation, the systematic humiliation. Nathan played back the recording from the garage. Brenda's voice filled the hotel room, arrogant and clear. Power of attorney, Nathan. All legal. Your father signed it over. This house will be mine too, once I get him declared incompetent. That's elder abuse, Nathan said, rewinding to replay Gerald's weak protests. Financial exploitation of a senior citizen. It's a felony in Pennsylvania. Brenda says the police won't do anything. Says it's all legal. She's wrong. Nathan's jaw tightened. We're going to prove exactly how wrong. The next morning, Nathan took me to see Patricia Wells, an attorney who specialized in elder law. She had the kind of office that inspired confidence. Law books, framed certificates, photos with judges and politicians. She listened to our story with the focused attention of someone who'd seen these cases before. Mr. Coleman, she said after reviewing Nathan's recording, what's been done to you is criminal. Pennsylvania law is very clear on this. If power of attorney was obtained through deception, it's voidable. And financial exploitation of someone over 60 is a felony. What about the house? You own it. She has no legal right to evict you from your own property. Patricia pulled out a tablet, started making notes. We're going to file emergency protective orders to freeze your accounts immediately. Then we're pursuing criminal charges. Within 48 hours, a process server was knocking on my front door. I wasn't there to see it, but Carl Phillips called Nathan to report the chaos. Boxes everywhere, frantic packing, Brenda screaming into her phone. She tried to get 3 different lawyers to take her case, Carl told Nathan. Heard her through the kitchen window. They all turned her down once they heard about the recording. The emergency hearing was set for the following Friday. Judge Alice Jordan presided, a stern woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen every scam in the book. Mr. Coleman, she said during my testimony, you're telling this court that defendants moved you from your own bedroom to a garage? Yes, Your Honor. They said I was taking up too much space. In your own home. Yes, ma'am. Judge Jordan looked at the photos Nathan had taken. Me on that thin mattress, the concrete floor, the space heater, the makeshift bathroom setup. Her expression grew harder with each image. Patricia presented our evidence methodically. The recording of Brenda's confession. Bank statements showing $19,200 in pension funds diverted over 4 months. Medical records documenting my 20-pound weight loss. Testimony from Carl and Helen Phillips about what they'd witnessed. Brenda's court-appointed lawyer, some kid fresh out of law school who'd drawn the short straw, tried to argue family dispute, tried to claim I'd signed willingly. Judge Jordan destroyed his arguments with surgical precision. The defendant forced a 65-year-old man to live in a garage while using his pension funds to purchase luxury items. The power of attorney was clearly obtained through misrepresentation. When it came time for Brenda to testify, she tried to play victim, claimed she was just helping family, that I was confused, that she'd done nothing wrong. You spent $19,200 of Mr. Coleman's pension in 4 months, Judge Jordan said. On what? Household expenses, food, utilities. A $3,000 leather couch is a household expense. We needed furniture. For whose benefit? Silence. The gavel came down hard. The power of attorney is hereby voided. Mr. Coleman's accounts are to be restored immediately. Defendants are ordered to vacate the property within 48 hours and pay restitution of $19,200. But Judge Jordan wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution. What I've seen here today constitutes clear elder financial abuse under Pennsylvania's statute. 3 months later, the mail brought the final chapter. Brenda was sentenced to 18 months in prison for elder financial abuse. Gerald got probation and community service. 200 hours helping at a senior center seemed fitting. Gerald called once after his sentencing, crying, saying he was sorry, that he'd been manipulated too. Maybe someday we'll rebuild what we had. Maybe not. Trust, once broken between father and son, doesn't heal overnight. But Nathan and I are closer than ever. He checks on me twice a week, helps with yard work, brings his kids over on weekends. Real family stuff. The way it should be. I'm back in my own house now, sleeping in my own bed, eating at my own table. The pension flows into accounts only I control. I've got new locks, a security system, and most importantly, my dignity back. Sometimes the real heroes are the ones who show up when you need them. Most. And sometimes, even at 65, you find out you're stronger than you thought. Strong enough to fight back. Strong enough to win. Strong enough to take your life back and live it on your own terms. That's worth more than any pension money. That's worth everything. Sometimes the people who should protect you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. But that doesn't mean you stop fighting for what's right. Your past experience and training never leave you. Whether you're 25 or 65, the skills that made you strong can still save your life when everything seems lost.